Hey everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Since a lot of you always ask how I write in my handwriting, I thought today I should do a video on showing how I transformed my handwriting from this to this. My first tip is finding out what you currently don't like about your handwriting. For example, is it because it's too hard to read or too slanted? And finding the thing that you want to change. My second tip is to find inspiration and then collect a lot of photos on different handwritings that you like. I like to look at different studygrams and then find what is in common about all those photos that you collected and then apply it to your own handwriting. My third tip is finding the right pen. This tip is honestly so important and can make such a big difference to your handwriting. For example, I find that with print, I prefer a pen with a larger tip, like usually a 0.7, but with cursive, I prefer a smaller tip, which is usually around 0.5 or 0.4, because I think that with cursive, you want cleaner lines, otherwise it can get really crowded and look really busy. Pen color is also something that is really important. I find that I prefer black pens since I think it doesn't clash with colors as much as blue does, and sometimes with my handwriting in cursive and blue it just looks very messy. Ballpoint pens and ink pens can also make a big difference to your handwriting. I find that with ballpoint, the ink is less consistent. So like there are areas with that are darker and areas that are lighter. Whereas with ink and gel, I find that the look of it is more consistent. So it just depends on what you like. My fourth tip is trying to reduce the amount of loops you have in your handwriting if you really want that clean look. As you can see in the first one, I looped the L, the O's, and you can see that it looks a lot more cluttered in comparison to the third one, which doesn't have any loops at all. My next tip is closing your letters. That's usually for letters such as O's, P's, A's, G's, because it can make your letters look like another letter and it makes it really unclear as to what you're trying to write. You can see that in the word loop, the O's start looking like U's and then the P also start looking like N's but with a very long stem. Another thing is that I find print is usually a lot easier to read than cursive, especially if you don't want your page to look really cluttered. Sometimes the extra linking strokes can make your page look more messy in cursive. But for me, I also find that cursive is a lot quicker to write than print. So sometimes if I'm writing notes in class, I will usually write it in cursive since it's a lot quicker. My next tip is probably one of the most important ones, and that is finding consistency. I find that with this, it's more just practice and also taking your time. Obviously, when you're in class, sometimes you just have to rush things, but I find that if you just take your time in the beginning, you'll develop your handwriting and then you'll be able to write it fast as well. You can see here that all of the examples are really inconsistent with the baseline and also the slanting. In these notes you can see how the letters are all of different heights and also slanted. And then here you can see much nicer notes because the spacing, the letter height and everything are just more consistent. Tip number 6 is really simple but is very important. It's having your capital letters higher than your lowercase letters. So I find that it looks really nice when the capital letter is the same height as the ascender letters. So that's kind of like the T's and the L's. Tip number 7 is slanting your letters. I find that a slight slant is really nice, but when you slant it too much, it becomes very hard to read. So that's also something to keep in mind. Now my last tip actually has nothing to do with your handwriting, but before I get into that, make sure you subscribe, hit the like button, and turn on the notification bell. Tip number 8 is actually making sure that you leave enough space in the line for your letters. What I mean by this is try to have your words go halfway between the lines, because when you have it go full length or 3/4, I'd say, it can sometimes look very crowded with the next line. As you can see here, there are actually quite a few places where the letters from the two lines intersect, and that can make it look really crowded, busy, and messy. If you like this video, don't forget to subscribe and hit the like button, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye!